Today we'll be making the Psychic type Mewtwo, the Fire type Vulpix, the Fire and Flying type Charizard, the Normal type Snorlax, the Grass and Poison type Venusaur, the Water type Blastoise, and the Electric type Pikachu. You can find links to the designs in the video description. What you will print out are sheets that look like this. A white border surrounding the actual origami craft. You'll want to cut the origami square out carefully using the dotted lines. It's important to make these cuts as straight as possible so your Pokemon's edges are clean. You'll notice that there are also dotted lines all throughout the craft portion of the paper, though they're a bit hard to see with Snorlax here. These are what I'll be referring to as your fold lines, so anytime you make a fold, your creases should be right on these fold lines. Now let's cut some Pokemon out and get to work. First we'll look at the water Pokemon, Blastoise. The first step is to fold over this middle crease to make a triangle. Just fold your corners right until they meet. You can see that mine's a little bit off there, so hopefully yours came out a little bit better. Now take Blastoise and place him face down. We're going to take our corner edges and fold them over the inner fold lines here and here. Since you'll be folding where you can't see the dotted lines, it may be a little difficult, so I suggest making light folds and checking your placement before bearing down on your crease. Once you have them in place, you can use your finger or your nail to bear down on the crease. Now it's time to fold Blastoise's ears. Using the visible dotted lines, we're going to take the corners of the ears and fold them over them, essentially folding the ears over on themselves. Once you have that done, open up the ears so that they balloon out. Using the dotted line near the edge, fold in the top of the ear so that the overall shape is no longer pointed and instead has a slant to it. Your current shape should look like this. Now to finish up, we're going to fold the chin of Blastoise to give him a more flat look at the bottom instead of this pointed look. Take the bottom of his chin and fold over the dotted lines, folding both sides, his front and back, inward. And there you go, you have Blastoise. As you can see, the top of mine has a little bit of a dotted line showing, so if you're a little bit more careful with your folds, you shouldn't have that showing. But the end result should still be approximately the same. If you want Blastoise to stand up, all you need is some cardboard and tape, or some other item that you can use that's sturdy enough to hold up the paper. Next we're going to look at Venusaur, the Grass and Poison type Pokemon. Now to start out with Venusaur, we're going to fold the same way we did the Blastoise, using that middle line and taking the corners and bringing them together, making a triangle. Now we're going to take these two inner lines that touch the green segment and fold your corners inward over them. If you do it right, the ears should not fall past the other side of the cutout. They should stay within the confines of your paper. They will overlap like so. So if you flip Venusaur over, you should have him looking like this.
Venusaur.
Now, moving along. You're going to fold the ears over their dotted lines, again essentially folding the ears in on themselves like you did for Blastoise. Last, it's chin time. Just like we did for Blastoise, fold the front and back flaps inward. And now, for the last step, fold down the leaf on Venusaur's head. Now if you want to keep his ears from flapping out so much, you can use some tape to hold them down. Just place a little piece in between the crevice. Now I asked my origami sensei why there were folds showing on the leaf, and both she and I looked at the instructions and followed them, and we couldn't figure it out. So if you find a way to fold this where the folds aren't showing, let me know. Now we're going to look at the fire type Vulpix. This was one of the trickier origami, but I'm sure we can handle it. Now to start with, you can choose to cut the white space around Vulpix's head off before we begin, or you can choose to do it afterwards or simply leave it. It's up to you. If you cut it off beforehand, folding will be a little bit more difficult, but if you leave it on and want to cut it off at the end, it's a little bit tricky to get all that white cut without messing up your final project. We start the same way as we did on the previous two, folding the corners across that middle line. Now once we have our Vulpix Dorito, place Vulpix face down, and we're going to fold across this middle line here. If you do it right, the corner should touch the edge at the bottom, and you should have some space showing at the top above that dotted line that I'm creasing right now. Next, out of this fold, you're going to take only the top layer and fold across this dotted line. Essentially, you'll be making a diamond or square shape with the white part, and there should be a little bit of a ridge left at the top. Now we're going to take the corners of these orange pieces and fold them over the dotted lines. As you do this, you'll be bending and folding the layers that you already have. So if it feels like you're squishing them, it's okay. Just make sure that everything goes down nice and flat. And if it doesn't, just try to maneuver it and adjust your creases a bit so that everything does lie flat and doesn't bulge outward. Now that we have our Vulpix house, it's time to fold the ears, which we're going to do over these dotted lines. As usual, make sure that your creases are following the lines and give it a little cursory glance before you make those creases flat. Now the two visible dotted lines should match up, and as you can see, mine doesn't exactly, so on both of these I'm just kind of adjusting my folds a little bit so that they line up more evenly. Next it's time to fold over those even lines as best you can, which might prove a little difficult given how many layers of paper are underneath there, but try your best. And with that, Vulpix is done. Now this is the version with the white remaining around the headpiece, and you can see behind a little bit of the one without. The choice is yours.